Welcome to Gilead, everyone. Welcome to the new regime. Welcome to a new America. Welcome. It is a new day in America, and I don't know how to feel about it. So today, shout out to the Supreme Court, you get 1 star. Today, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action. One of many things that they're rolling back. We've already saw Roe versus Wade get, struck down and reversed. We're seeing the end of affirmative action. And it's a lot. It's a lot. Now, of course, me being a person of color, me being a black person, I know how important affirmative action is. And while I have my own personal opinions about this, I am not going to litigate this case based on feelings, because that's what they want me to do. I'm going to look at this through the lens of purely statistics, institutional racism, through the lens of precedent, and through the lens of who is requesting this. Now, I didn't announce this meeting, of course. Hi to everybody on Facebook, because I didn't know if I was quite ready to discuss this, because this is a lot. This is a lot. But I kind of looked at everything and I was like, yeah. So we're going to discuss this. It's not going to be a long affair. We're just going to hop right into it. So today, as you all know, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action. Okay? Now, the Supreme Court, this is courtesy of NPR. The Supreme Court found that Harvard and the University of North Carolina's admissions policy violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The decision reverses decades of precedent upheld over the years by narrow court majorities that included Republican-appointed judges. It could end the ability of colleges and universities, public and private, to do what most say they will need to do: consider race as one of many factors in deciding which of the qualified applicants is to be admitted. The court has permitted race-based college admissions only within the confines of narrow restrictions. Such admission programs must comply with strict scrutiny, may never use race as a stereotype or negative, and must at some point end, the court wrote in its majority opinion. Respondents' admission systems fail each of these criteria and must therefore be invalidated under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The ruling in the UNC case was 6-3. In the Harvard case, 6-2, with Ketanji Brown Jackson recusing herself. Okay? Now, here is where all of these things that we've been discussing comes into play. We are at a time in America where a population of the American public wants to basically erase history. They want to rewrite history. They want us to all believe that the country is a certain way when it's not. This goes back to the Trump presidency and elections having consequences. The reality is this: we are witnessing live a certain demographic, a certain population, a certain group of folks who want to rewrite history. They want to rewrite the doings of their ancestors. They want to rewrite everything that's happened in this country and make it appear that all of those things that are in the Constitution are real. And they're not. to this day, you know, we're still fighting for equal rights in certain things. We're still dealing with gerrymandering. We're still dealing with all kinds of issues with just what I think are crimes against humanity. And to have this happen, first off, how did it even get here, right? So the case was brought to the Supreme Court by this guy, Edward Bloom. Now, Edward Bloom, and I'm gonna give you some tea on him. Edward Bloom has been pushing to get affirmative action, anything dealing with race equality in government, in schools, and anything. He has been really pushing to have that stuff removed for decades. The thing is, Edward Bloom never had the court majority or the government majority to be able to actually do a lot of the shit that he wanted to do. Well, due to Hillary's emails being such a scandal and people voting the way that they did in 2016, it set off a chain of events that, at least in my lifetime and a lot of our lifetimes, we never thought would happen. Okay? So by packing the court and having a large conservative majority, you now have the numbers for someone like Edward Bloom, who, by the way, is using another demographic and another group of people to get this done. You know, and we're going to get to that. Is using another demographic, another group of people to get this done, are really, it's crazy. So, Edward Bloom. All right, let me get back here. Bloom has been, this is courtesy of the Wall Street Journal. Bloom has been the force behind 8 cases argued in front of the Supreme Court, despite never having gone to law school. On Thursday, in twin cases Bloom organized against Harvard College and the University of North Carolina, justices returned a decision that largely overturns 40 years of legal precedent, okay, that has allowed universities to consider a race when admitting students. For his efforts, Bloom has been hailed by some conservatives as a patriot and by some on the left as a racist. When asked to describe himself, Bloom says he is a former marathon runner with an unusually high degree of tenacity and tolerance for discomfort. Those attributes have helped him make an avatar for conservatives' decades-long pushback against what they see as a legislative overreach for the American sins of slavery and legal racial discrimination. The 1964 Civil Rights Act clearly forbids treating Americans differently by race. That seems to have been lost over the years, Bloom said. His opponents argue the U.S. has a long road to travel before redressing past and present racial disparities. This is particularly true in education. They argue where many Latino, Black, and poor people remain segregated in poorly resourced schools. Bloom, they contend, is pushing America backward. Okay? Now, Bloom says he holds faith in the families who maintain high academic expectations for their children. He calls the family the most important educational institution in the country and says he has received hundreds of letters from working class families and all races whose children have outcompeted their wealthier peers in less than ideal circumstances. So this whole pull yourself up by your bootstrap shit is about to get real again. Now, the way that he got this in was, oddly enough, and I want to be very clear because this is a very sensitive subject. So the way that he got this in, and this is passed, is because an organization which represents Asian students were saying that affirmative action was essentially hurting Asian students who apply for college at, institutions like Harvard, University of North Carolina, things like that. And that they were being discriminated against because of affirmative action. So Bloom, of course, took up the cause, and I can understand, as a person of color, as a black person, I understand, wanting your fair shot in this country. But wanting your fair shot in this country does not include, to me, tanking other people of color. Because the reality is this, and this is my personal opinion. Affirmative action is not the reason why y'all were not getting admitted, in my personal opinion. Okay. Now, statistically, when we look at affirmative action and how it works, I feel like this bill is interesting. Because, this decision rather, because in this decision, military schools and institutions are excluded from this ruling. So let's think about this, folks. Institutions like Harvard, Yale, all of these different places who, Harvard represents a lot of the people that went to the Supreme Court, that sit on the Supreme Court, a lot of the people that work in government went to Harvard. That's just a path to government, period. Yale, path to government, period. That's not a speculation, that is a fact, okay? So this decision impacts those institutions, but it excludes military schools and military institutions because they have special interests. Basically what this is saying is this, and I'm going to be very blunt. Your black ass is not going to Harvard, bitch. You're going to have to really, really make it work. But you can join the military and go die for a country who does not view you as an equal partner. For that, we will, take special consideration and look into your skill set. So that's what this bill excludes. You can go and die. You can go and run. You can go and jump. You can go and shoot. You can go and battle. But if you want to become the next president of the United States, honey, and you didn't go to the right school, and let's face it, maybe you didn't go to the right school because you couldn't afford it. This also now impacts scholarships, grants for minorities. So all of these special grants, and I know some people, I was talking on Facebook about this, and one of my, one person said, Pell Grants are protected by law, guaranteed by law. And to me, guaranteed by law means nothing. If the last few years has not taught you anything, guaranteed by law means absolute shit. Okay? Absolute shit. So expect to see rollbacks of those things as well. Okay? Now, of course, the way that the judges voted, mostly all of the conservative judges, the vote was 6-3, and 6-2 with Ketanji recusing herself on the case. The biggest disappointment here is Clarence Thomas. Not only is he dealing with some shady financial dealings, I don't want to call him a crook, because I don't want to get struck down by the powers that be on YouTube. But he's dealing with some financial issues right now and, things that he does. But it's so sad to see a person who was a direct beneficiary of affirmative action vote against it. But here's the thing. Once again, and I said this before in a previous meeting, back to Anita Hill. She tried to tell us, and we didn't believe that lady. Let this be a lesson to black people, to us as a community. We have to look at our own people too when we decide to just blindly throw support behind them. And we have to listen to people, especially our women, you know, our black women, when they're trying to say, hey, hey guys, might want to take a look at this one. Okay? Because Anita Hill told y'all. And because, once again, racial disparities, you know, inequality, people were just so pressed to get that next black man in at the third court martial. And we voted in a person who does not identify with us at all. He just does not. At all. And that is the unfortunate part. I will say this. What can sometimes seem like a victory is ultimately a chess move for defeat. Because I'm going to tell you, while it seems like this worked in some folks' favor, you're being used. Because, now mind you, I didn't see anything in this bill, I didn't see anything in this bill striking down legacy admissions. But somebody's going to litigate that. And don't think that when these institutions start going purely off of test scores, purely off of grade point averages, purely off of skill sets, that the goalposts won't get moved on you. Because when the powers that be start noticing that their children are not getting the seats, they're going to get you too. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But who am I? It's been interesting to see the events of the day unfold. I'm not going to be on here long because tomorrow on the Supreme Court, they're voting on student loans. So, good luck. And may the odds be up in your favor. Let's see. And since this court has been packed with a conservative majority, Roe versus Wade has been reversed. Now, affirmative action is no more. It's been struck down. They're getting ready to vote on student loans. And they're actively working on the gays. For those of you who do not vote, that say your vote don't matter, how's that working out for you? How's that working out for you? And the saying, if you don't vote, don't complain, never rang more true to me than ever in my life at this time. We are in quite a time. And I'm going to say, as a person who was born in the mall era and was a teenager during, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s, George Bush wasn't even this bad. No shade. Like, George Bush, looking back, was a cakewalk. He was just a stand-up Republican. He was, God, I would take him back a million times. But I am now realizing that the world that was promised to me is no more. The times that I had and the ways in which I was educated and the opportunities that were given to me, were not given to me, earned, are going to look different for the children of tomorrow. They're going to look different if I choose to have children. Quite frankly, with the way the world is going, I'm never having kids. I never want a child. I would never bring a child into this madness. But my generation is now going to have to do the fight all over again. And that really sucks. But that's where we're really at. And, you know, they always say trust takes a long time to build, but a short time to destroy. It has not even been 10 years since Donald Trump took office. Not even 10. It hasn't even been a decade. And we have already had changes made that will impact us for decades. And that's the reality. This is no longer me joining these meetings and speculating and saying what you should or shouldn't do or what should happen. These are the realities now. But as always, we will continue to fight. We will continue to find a way because that's just what we do, bitch. I usually try to find humor in these situations, but I can't. So I'm going to leave on this note. Love each other. Stick together. Family is going to be so important moving forward. And really educating our children. On that note, you guys have a great evening. If you're not following me on social media at Dapper Dan Midas, you can also contribute to the channel, Venmo, Cash App, Dapper Dan Midas. Y'all have a great evening. Be blessed. And I will see y'all soon.